Zootopia 2 has come home to Disney+.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
Gary the Snake.
And your last name?
The Snake.
Dream Team.
New habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home. Zootopia 2, now available on Disney+, rated PG. And right now you can get Disney Plus and Hulu for just $4.99 a month for 3 months with a special limited time offer. Ends March 24th. After 3 months, plan auto renews at $12.99 a month. Terms apply.
Welcome to the Special Forces in World War II podcast, transmitting on this frequency. This broadcast is your dedicated channel for comprehensive intelligence regarding World War II Special Forces operations. Our transmissions encompass in-depth analysis of their strategic maneuvers, cutting-edge equipment, illustrious biographies, and an array of pertinent subjects. The orchestration of these transmissions is executed by the expert team of the Special Forces in World War II website, a squad deeply immersed in the historical theatre. For further insights, visual aids, and captured moments frozen in time, navigate to our virtual headquarters at worldwar2-soft.com. Your immersion into the front lines of knowledge awaits. Over and out. Welcome back to another episode of the Special Forces in World War II podcast, where we explore the bold, the daring, and the extraordinary stories, tactics, and equipment of the special and specialized forces whose actions helped shape the outcome of the Second World War. I'm your host, Michael Wyers, and today we return to the Albert Canal. In our previous episodes, we covered the preparations for Unternehmen Danzig, the operational planning that placed Sturmgruppe Beton at the center of one of the most audacious airborne assaults in military history. We then followed the assault on the bridge at Velvetzelt, where the men of Sturmgruppe Stahl seized their objective in the opening minutes of Fall Gelb. And in part one of our coverage of Sturmgruppe Beton, we examined the order of battle and the approach to the bridge at Vroenhoven. Today, in part two, we follow those men to the ground. What unfolds in the next few hours is unlike almost anything else in the opening days of the Western campaign. A small number of German paratroopers, most of them junior non-commissioned officers, find themselves cut off, outnumbered, and operating without contact to higher command. The plan begins to unravel almost immediately. And yet the men of Sturmgruppe Beton press forward regardless, improvising under fire, making decisions that no training manual can fully prepare a soldier for. Whether that is enough, you will find out. This is Vroenhoven, Part 2. So, let's start at the beginning. At approximately 5 o'clock, the first DFS 230 gliders appear over Vroenhoven. Anti-aircraft fire from Maastricht has already confirmed enemy aircraft are in the air. The Belgian troops responsible for the area around the Vroenhoven Bridge belong to 1st Compagnie, 18th Regiment de Ligne. Their commanding officer is Captain Joseph van Beneden. Belgian soldat Martin Driessen is on sentry duty at the bridge. He raises the alarm immediately. The bunker crew emerges at once. Obstacles are in position. The volume of aircraft overhead leaves no doubt. War has begun. The defenders open fire. One glider appears to dive sharply. The crew believe it has been hit. At approximately 5:20, fire is directed at the incoming gliders. 7 of them land near the trenches of Première Compagnie. A gendarme, Maréchal de Logis Ignul, moves towards one glider grounded approximately 80 meters north of the bridge. He intends to arrest the occupants. He mistakes the aircraft for a conventional machine in distress. The defenders cannot immediately confirm whether it is German or Dutch. The glider carries no national markings. A second glider, belonging to Gruppe 4, lands extremely close to the bridge. The landing speed far exceeds what was planned. The aircraft touches down at around 120 kilometers per hour instead of the intended 50. It halts 120 meters short of Bunker M, rather than the planned 40. Emergency brakes and barbed wire entangled around the skid prevent it from plunging into the canal. The impact is violent. The glider nearly overturns. The pilot regains control within seconds. Ammunition crates break loose and strike the men inside. Several are injured. Despite the pain and the confusion, the door is forced open. The Fallschirmjäger reach the ground and return to combat at once. Belgian soldiers are already emerging from the nearby trenches. Oberjäger Schmitt and the men of Gruppe 4 dismiss any thought of surrender. They throw themselves into the fight without hesitation. They shout, "Fire in all directions," and push forward. Maréchal de Logis Ignul is hit in the leg. He withdraws with the Bunker M crew. 6 soldiers of Première Compagnie also pull back into the bunker. Those 6 men are later killed. There is no other option open to them. Caporal Penniman sees further gliders coming down near the canal slope at the same moment. Soldat Driessen watches more aircraft land under heavy fire. The landing zone fills rapidly. The air is bright with tracer. Panic spreads among the Belgian defenders. They feel helpless. They cannot react quickly enough to prevent the Germans closing on the bunker and the bridge. Through the observation slits of Bunker M, the crew sees a German officer armed with only a pistol. He takes cover behind the bridge balustrade. The Belgians attempt to kill him by every available means. They throw hand grenades through the firing apertures. The grenades are visible in flight and cause no real damage. 3 Fallschirmjäger of Gruppe 4 under Oberfeldwebel Hoffmann are injured during the landing. The rest of the group run together towards Bunker M. They fight through Belgian resistance in the trenches as they advance. Schmitt jumps into a trench without hesitation. His rifle jams. He draws his pistol and aims it at the first Belgians facing him. 2 other rifles fail as well. The action develops so fast that in the confusion, Fallschirmjäger briefly fire at each other. A warning shout comes from near the glider door. Schmitt rises and sees a soldier facing him, covered in decorations. He fires and hits the man in the arm. The soldier's pistol spins upward, and he falls wounded. No other enemy is immediately visible. Schmitt calls for a weapon. Wohlgemuth passes him a machine gun. Schmitt uses it to suppress Belgian fire and protect his comrades. The firing then slackens. A figure attacks Schmitt from behind in the trench. The blow lands on his helmet. He sees stars. He reacts at once and kicks the attacker in the shin. As the man turns away, Schmitt recognizes him as Jupp Close from Gruppe 11. At the same moment, he sees Helmut Pels fighting in the parallel trench. Pels signals that he has the situation under control. He has already taken 5 prisoners. The shouting, the firing, and the cries of the wounded make any exchange impossible. Inside Bunker M, Caporal Penniman reaches the telephone and calls Lanaken headquarters. He reports that 3 aircraft have landed near the bridge. He states that he is awaiting orders. At Lanaken, Lieutenant Boygen attempts to warn Bunker N at Veldwezelt. He cannot connect. He reaches casemate C instead. The crew there confirm the German attack. They say they want to surrender. The line then cuts. Sergeant Crowells attempts to contact Lanaken for further instructions. The connection is garbled and then dies. Several further attempts fail. Unknown to the bunker crew, 4 Junkers 87 dive bombers have struck the Lanaken headquarters. The attack destroys the command post and the telephone exchange. 21 soldiers are killed. Among the dead is Captain Gidelo, the officer responsible for ordering demolition of the bridge. At the most critical moment, the Belgian chain of command ceases to function. The Belgian demolition system is not electrical. The slow fuses require 2 minutes to burn down to the charges. When the alarm was raised, Penniman connected the fuse to the detonating apparatus. The standing order is clear. The bridge is to be destroyed if attacked, whether by armor or any other means. It is not to be destroyed simply because another bridge nearby has been demolished. With no contact to Lanaken, Sergeant Crowells decides to act. He lights the fuse with a lighter. He shuts the door, and the bunker crew descends to the lower level to await the blast. A fierce argument erupts immediately. Several men refuse to destroy the bridge for what they describe as only a handful of Germans. The strongest opposition comes from 6 soldiers of the 18e Régiment de Ligne under Caporal Nice. Some believe the gliders may be Dutch aircraft brought down by Belgian fire. In the confusion and the hesitation, Crowells loses control. He strikes one of the dissenters. 2 soldiers then go upstairs and extinguish the fuse. Outside, Oberjäger Beton runs towards Bunker M, carrying a 12.5 kilogram hollow charge. A shot from the bunker hits him in the arm. Schmitt picks up the charge and advances through the wire. He reaches a blind spot in front of the bunker. The German team drills are tested immediately. The man assigned to place the charge is out of action. A replacement takes over without hesitation. The glider pilot remains part of the effort, treating the wounded and managing ammunition. Schmitt runs back to the glider to fetch a weapon for the approach. The available weapons are damaged. Arn and Wolgemuth lie about 20 meters behind the glider, pistols in their left hands, providing cover. They point out where Beton lies. Beton is badly wounded. Schmitt takes the hollow charge from the ground beside him. Beton warns him that after priming, he has only 10 seconds before detonation. The delay has been set to 10 seconds, not the standard 15. Schmitt nods and moves towards the bunker. He intends to cross the 10 meters from the wire entanglement at speed and clear the bunker's field of fire. He then negotiates approximately 6 meters of obstacles and further wire. The barbed wire tears at his smock. Midway through, the outer bunker door opens. 2 Belgian soldiers step out and move back inside. At that instant, Schmitt hears Hoffmann shout and feels the covering fire of a machine gun close overhead. Heinrich Haas is firing. Schmitt holds a Pistole 08 in his left hand. The outer door remains open. The inner armored door closes behind the 2 Belgians. The entrance is accessible. Schmitt moves through the outer doorway and fixes the 12.5 kilogram hollow charge to the inner armored door. He then sees a smoldering fuse approximately 60 centimeters long, leading into a metal case. He crawls to the point where the fuse passes through the wall and stamps on it. It does not go out. He pauses and considers the risk. If the hollow charge detonates here, it may trigger the demolition charges on the bridge itself. His comrades are close. Stenzel reaches him within seconds. Schmitt asks for advice. Stenzel points towards the bridge and indicates it is already in German hands. He suggests burying the smoldering fuse under earth. Schmitt rejects this as too dangerous. Stenzel takes Schmidt's knife, cuts the fuse at an angle, and throws the burning end out. Hoffmann and Haas continue to cover them. Stenzel withdraws. Schmitt counts to 300. He knows that when he finishes, only 5 minutes will remain for Oberjäger Gano's Pionier of Gruppe 3 to secure the bridge charges. When the count ends, he activates the Holadung. While Schmitt and Stenzel cut the fuse and prepare the charge, Sergeant Crauwels also attempts to prevent the bridge's destruction. The bunker crew remains in panic and confusion. The Germans call on the Belgians to surrender. The Belgians refuse. Schmitt urges them repeatedly to come out during the remaining minutes. He warns that they will die within seconds once the charge detonates. Language difficulties, fear, shouting, gunfire, and shock distort everything inside. It is possible the crew does not understand him. The inner door is armored. The outer entrance is a thin zinc door that can be secured only from outside. This structure creates a trap. When the hollow charge detonates, the blast has nowhere to go. The bunker becomes a tomb for most of the crew. Sergeant Crauwels is among the first killed. He receives the full force of the initial blast. A second explosion follows seconds later. More men are killed. Others are wounded. Penniman is thrown against a wall. Hand grenades end any remaining resistance. Penniman is badly wounded but forces himself to an observation slit. He sees the bridge still standing. The bunker is on fire. He has not yet seen Germans inside, but the outer door stands open. 4 Germans outside carry pistols and MP-38 submachine guns. They fire as the survivors attempt to escape. Another explosion throws Penniman to the ground. Jérôme de Gries is wounded in the neck. Penniman tries to reach a ventilation opening to breathe. He considers manning the 47mm anti-tank gun, but the ammunition box is burning. Exhausted and overcome, he leaves the bunker and loses consciousness outside. During the escape, Maréchal des Logis Ignul is killed by fire. A soldier of the 18th Régiment de Ligne also falls. Others survive inside, among them Soldats Kramer and Driesen, because they pull on gas masks in time. Shortly afterwards, the surviving defenders are taken prisoner. Vroenhoven proves easier for the Fallschirmjäger than Veldwezelt. Even so, Schmitt pays for his haste at Bunker M. He does not reach cover before the charge detonates. The blast strikes him 10 seconds after activation. He has tried to close the outer door to amplify the effect, but fails. The 2 Belgian soldiers who re-entered just before him also fail to secure it. The lost seconds are critical. The blast wave catches him as he crosses the wire. The pressure lifts him as if he is weightless and drops him again. The outer door is torn from its hinges and flies towards him. A light wooden structure is thrown first and shields him from the heavier door. He loses consciousness briefly. Heinz Haas reaches him and rouses him. Haas urges him to move. He cannot hold the debris much longer. Schmitt wants to remain where he is, but the others drag him clear and bring him under cover. Bunker M is neutralized. The bridge at Vroenhoven remains intact in German hands. The remaining Belgian positions now begin to collapse in sequence. Resistance weakens quickly under the combined pressure of the bridgehead and the destruction of local command. When the gliders begin to land, the northern sector of the Belgian defense almost fails to react. The reason is immediate and catastrophic. Captain Joseph van Beneden is killed at the very outset of the assault. He commands 1st Compagnie, the unit whose entire purpose is the defense of this bridge. The artillery observer is also killed early in the action. Lieutenant Janot of the 20th Régiment d'Artillerie loses all observation capability the moment his observer falls. He is effectively blind. Lieutenant Stevens has organized 2 combat groups. One stands north of the Maastricht to Tongeren Road, the other holds ground to the south. Stevens establishes his own command position near the mortar emplacement. A glider lands close to the northernmost trench line, north of the road. This position belongs to Sergeant Heck. He opens fire with his machine gun. Both he and his gunner are killed almost immediately. Fallschirmjäger rush the trench, throwing hand grenades and firing at close range. Stevens realizes the attack is real. He orders the mortars to engage. The fire achieves nothing. As at Veldwieselt, the mortar grenades lack detonator caps. They fail to function. At the same moment, another glider touches down near Belgian troops in trenches farther south. These men are captured with almost no resistance. The anti-aircraft position under Willems and a trench held by 2nd Compagnie under Gerdert fall in the same manner. Within 30 minutes, Stevens's entire detachment collapses. His men cannot break through to reach Bunker M. The scale of the Belgian failure at Vroenhoven is illustrated by what happens at Café Mengels. Gendarme Jacobs is assigned alongside Gendarme Ignul to the western side of the bridge. When the assault begins, Jacobs takes shelter in the cellar of the café, less than 50 meters north of the bridge. Nearby soldiers fire a handful of shots before joining him. By the time the fighting around the bridge reaches its peak, 35 men are gathered in the cellar. At 8:15, they are all taken prisoner. The trenches north of the road under Van Male and those farther west held by Stevens's men offer almost no opposition. A few shots are fired at the opening of the attack. The Germans largely ignore these positions and concentrate instead on the ground closer to the bridge. Whatever resistance remains is broken by Stuka attacks. The 3 47mm anti-tank guns assigned to the position do not fire. No clear targets present themselves. Van Male and his machine gunner cannot raise their heads above the parapet. German sniper fire forces them to keep down. They surrender without further resistance. Van Male later regards this decision as deeply regrettable. He attempts to escape briefly and reaches his company command post, only to find it already in German hands. A hand grenade is thrown at him. He is unharmed, but immediately taken prisoner again. The men of Deporter hold trenches on both sides of the road, well to the west of Stevens's position. They fail to react to the assault at all. Every man is either killed or captured. Deporter's detachment surrenders at 6:30 after sustained fire from Fallschirmjäger and Stuka aircraft. The loss of Kapitein van Beneden in the opening seconds of the attack strips 1st Compagnie of its command. Without direction, without communication, and without functioning indirect fire support, the Belgian defense around Vroenhoven disintegrates unit by unit. Within 85 minutes of the first gliders touching down, 1st Compagnie, 18th Régiment de Ligne, ceases to exist as an effective fighting force. The bridge stands, and the Fallschirmjäger hold it. The bridge at Vroenhoven is secured roughly 30 minutes after the assault begins. The pioneer of Gruppe 3, commanded by Oberjäger Garno, locate and neutralize the demolition charges intended to destroy the structure. Gruppe 4 carries out the final clearance of the bridge area. At 5:30, they transmit a situation report to the other assault groups. The message confirms that the objective is secured, the bunker destroyed, and the bridge intact. It states that the trenches are being cleared methodically and that a bridgehead is taking shape. The agreed ground signal has been laid out to inform friendly aircraft overhead that the situation is under control. For Oberjäger Schmitt, confirmation that the bunker has been eliminated offsets the pain of his wounds. He is satisfied that he can continue fighting. Lieutenant Schacht is still absent, and his whereabouts remain unknown. Oberfeldwebel Hoffmann therefore assumes overall command of the Fallschirmjäger at Vroenhoven. Hoffmann orders Schmitt to cross the bridge together with Haas Stenzel, and Ruthsatz. Their task is to establish a small bridgehead on the eastern side of the canal, near the Dutch border. This detachment is designated Kampfgruppe E. The group crosses the bridge without opposition. Haas and Stenzel throw hand grenades as they advance. Ruthsatz and Schmitt shout and fire into the air to assert control of the approaches. The few Belgians encountered near the bridge surrender without resistance. A search of the structure confirms that no fuses or demolition charges remain in place. The bridge is declared safe. Schmitt reports that the situation is fully under control. Only then does the group allow itself a brief moment of relief. Heinrich Haas, a medical orderly from Gruppe 4, dresses Schmidt's head wound and treats his other injuries. During this pause, Schmitt and his men make contact with Oberjäger Alfred Stolzewski, commander of Gruppe 8. Stolzewski's glider has made a violent landing after taking a hit from Belgian anti-tank fire. Despite this, the pilot manages to bring the aircraft down opposite the landing site of Gruppe 4. Using Belgian prisoners, the Fallschirmjäger clear obstacles from the bridge. In the process, they capture a machine gun and 14 carbines. The eastern bridgehead is established. Vroenhoven is in German hands. The eastern bridgehead is held, but the fight for Vroenhoven is far from over. South of the bridge, dug into the lower slope of the Albert Canal, lies Casemate A. It stands just under 500 meters from the crossing. 2 heavy machine guns mount on the lower level. A light machine gun covers the frontage from the upper floor. 19 men from 4E Compagnie, 18E Régiment de Ligne garrison the position under Lieutenant Bertrand. Bertrand and several of his men watch the gliders come in. One of them, the aircraft of Gruppe 5, touches down at the canal edge with one wing resting against the slope. The Belgians suspect an emergency landing. As a precaution, they withdraw into the casemate. Moments later, the illusion ends. One man shouts that the attackers are Germans. The Fallschirmjäger of Oberjäger Walter Röhrig exit their glider at once and race towards Casemate A. They pursue the Belgian defenders as they attempt to reach shelter. Bertrand opens fire, but is wounded almost immediately. Telephone contact exists with Fort Eben Emael, but the fort is itself under attack. Bertrand calls Lanaken instead. A German-speaking voice answers and asks what he requires. His despair deepens when he looks through the upper observation slit and sees explosions erupting at the neighboring Casemate B. The assault on Casemate A begins at once with small hollow charges. The defenders knock several away with long iron bars, but cannot prevent detonation. One blast dislodges the upper floor machine gun and burns several crewmen. A similar explosion on the southern upper chamber forces those men to retreat to the lower level. The Fallschirmjäger attack all sides of the casemate simultaneously. They force open the armored entrance and disable the machine gun in the southern lower chamber, wounding several more defenders. They breach the inner armored door and throw hand grenades through the southern firing ports. Bertrand and Sergeant Ott are both wounded. Other men suffer severe burns. A Luftwaffe strike then compels the attackers to seek cover. The bombing is accurate and leaves the casemate badly damaged. Dazed by smoke and shock, the Belgian defenders abandon the position in panic. They are not fired upon as they flee. They reach a machine gun nest of 2nd Compagnie, 18th Régiment de Ligne, and from there withdraw to rear positions. Casemate B stands in the northern part of the southern sector, approximately 400 meters from the bridge. Elements of 1st Compagnie defend it. The crew numbers 18 men, detached from 13e Compagnie, commanded by Lieutenant de Mol, who returns to the casemate as duty officer at 5 o'clock. He and his men are inside when the gliders arrive. Gruppe 6 under Oberjäger Heinz Gieser assaults the position immediately. The speed of the attack paralyzes the defense within seconds. The Belgians have no time to comprehend what is happening. As the Germans advance, they overrun several trenches. Some Belgian soldiers are still asleep. The Germans hesitate briefly, then press on without firing. At the casemate itself, hollow charges and hand grenades destroy 4 machine gun chambers. 2 Belgians are killed and 5 wounded. The surviving defenders surrender. Casemate B Prime lies nearly 2 kilometers northwest of the Vroenhoven Bridge. It is a distinct position, separate from Casemate B. Lieutenant Piron commands it, with 18 soldiers from 12th Compagnie. Its distance from the main objective limits its role in the immediate fighting. From dawn until midnight, it fires towards the bridge at Velvezelt to slow German reinforcement. German artillery responds and neutralizes the machine guns facing north. During the night, infantry from either 12th or 33rd Schützen Regiment infiltrate the area. The isolated garrison is surrounded and taken prisoner around midday on May 11th, 1940. The most threatening Belgian positions fall rapidly. Even so, the Fallschirmjäger remain deeply concerned about counterattack. Several groups are still in difficulty. Lieutenant Schacht and Gruppe 7 are isolated 1,200 meters from the bridge on the Leyfelter Höhenzug. They have suffered 4 dead and 6 wounded. Several hours pass before a rescue can be organized. Their absence causes serious concern. Gruppe 10, the radio detachment, also remains cut off after a faulty landing. Renewed attacks by Oberjäger Fritz Borchardt of Gruppe 9 and by Grotke of Gruppe 11 secure the ground west of the bridge. The bridgehead expands steadily, despite weakening Belgian resistance. By late morning, the Fallschirmjäger control an area approximately 1 kilometer long and 600 meters wide. 12 minutes after the initial assault, a Belgian machine gun opens fire on the bridge and the German positions. Mortar fire follows shortly afterwards. The Germans hold the bridge, but they cannot exclude attempts to retake or destroy it. Heavy caliber shells strike the area. Most fall harmlessly into the canal. The decisive support comes from the air. Once Belgian resistance is identified, Messerschmitt 109 fighters and Junkers 87 Stuka dive bombers arrive over the bridgehead. The fighters orbit at high altitude while the Stukas attack below them. This allows repeated dive bombing and strafing of Belgian artillery positions. Henschel 123 fighter bombers follow. Robust and highly maneuverable, they attack repeatedly, turning back again and again. Coordination between the ground troops and the Luftwaffe is continuous and precise. Aircraft circle overhead, almost without pause. Whenever the aircraft attack, the Fallschirmjäger seek cover and observe through binoculars. Belgian prisoners lie face down, with their hands over their ears. They want neither to see nor hear the bombardment. After each attack, shattered trenches and wounded defenders are discovered. Small bombs reach rear trench systems beyond the range of German light weapons. The Stukas dive with sirens wailing. But it is the Henschel 123s that induce sheer panic. Their engines produce a roar that is unrelenting. They attack repeatedly, and each pass breaks Belgian resistance a little further. To the Germans, the sound is reassuring. To the Belgians, it is unbearable, and it drives uncontrollable fear through every position that remains. While the casemates to the south are neutralized and the bridgehead begins to take shape, Oberjäger Theo Schmitt and a small group of Fallschirmjäger wait near the Dutch customs post at Vilra on the eastern canal bank. Their task is to secure the landing zone before reinforcements arrive. Aan, Volgemuth, and Bading are to position themselves further back with pistols to cover the flanks. Belgian machine gun fire is still active in the area. Schmitt decides the zone must be cleared before the drop. He and his 3 companions apply a deliberate Fallschirmjäger method. They keep moving constantly. They shift positions and strike suddenly. Their intention is to convince the enemy that a much larger force is present. The 4 men separate into defined roles. Heinrich Haas moves left with a machine gun. Ruthsatz follows with a carabiner 98. Schmitt advances along the right side of the road. Stenzel stays close behind him. Each man carries at least 1 captured Belgian weapon and additional ammunition. They soon encounter Belgian soldiers hiding nearby. The Germans attack immediately. Hand grenades carried in gas mask containers are thrown at close range. The brief engagement overwhelms the defenders. Prisoners are taken and sent to the rear, handed over to Oberjäger Alfred Stolzewski and the men of Gruppe 8, who have just arrived. At that moment, Schmitt does not realize that this is the only German unit behind him. At the customs post, the Dutch duty officer confronts Schmitt with a pistol. He declares that the Germans are standing on Dutch territory. Schmitt recognizes the man's resolve, but advances regardless. He raises a captured Belgian rifle and orders him to surrender. He speaks slowly to ensure comprehension. He states loudly that war has begun at 5:15. He declares that German troops are enforcing German authority. He orders the guards to empty their magazines and promises that they may retain their pistols if they comply. The Dutch personnel obey. They are confined to a room and warned not to use the telephone. Ruthsatz remains behind to guard them. The Dutch officer states that a garrison of 100 men is stationed at Vilra on the outskirts of Maastricht. Schmitt acknowledges the information but shows no concern. Stenzel watches the northern approaches. The others observe the south. At exactly 40 minutes after the initial assault, the sound of Junkers 52 transport engines is heard overhead. The aircraft carry Fallschirmjäger under Lieutenant Helmut Ringler, who has already jumped at Veldwezelt. On board is the Schwere Maschinengewehr Halbzug, the heavy machine gun half-platoon, commanded by Johann Sprengart. Its role is to reinforce the bridgehead and support the elements of Lieutenant Schacht. Sprengart is to come under the direction of Oberjäger Schmitt. His primary task is to assist in clearing any remaining demolition charges from the bridge supports. 1 heavy machine gun is to be placed under the direct control of the section leader. The jump takes place at approximately 6:05. It does not occur over the intended drop zone. The Junkers 52, carrying the group of Oberjäger Rudolf Dräger, comes under heavy ground fire and releases its Fallschirmjäger prematurely near the customs post at Vilra on the eastern canal bank. The section of Oberjäger Alfred Wuttig encounters a different failure. The jump signal is given too late. The Fallschirmjäger leave the aircraft scattered and uncontrolled. Several men land south of the bridge. Most come down on the western bank of the canal. Others land on the eastern side. Gefreiter Karl Scher, age 20, falls into the canal. The weight of his equipment drags him under, and he drowns. Gefreiter Werner Grimm is killed by Belgian fire shortly after landing. The men jump from a height of approximately 100 meters, which registers as roughly 180 meters on the aircraft altimeters when ground elevation is taken into account. However, several Fallschirmjäger land within 10 meters of the intended drop area. Schmitt immediately contacts Johann Sprengart and guides him along a cleared route towards the bridge. He warns him to cross quickly and points out Belgian trenches on both sides that can be seized and used. The crossing succeeds. Short bursts of heavy machine gun fire are heard from the bridge approaches. Wuttig's men open fire at once. First 2 heavy machine guns come into action, then 4 as ammunition containers are cracked open and fed into position. The Junkers 52 aircraft return minutes later and drop supply containers with weapons and equipment. The first container lands in German hands. The second does not. The 2 heavy machine guns from the successful drop are emplaced immediately to strengthen the bridgehead. Hauptmann Walter Koch observes this phase from his command post, still wearing his white-topped peaked cap. With the reinforcements in place, the German defense solidifies rapidly. West of the bridge and north of the road, Gruppe 9 under Oberjäger Fritz Borchardt, Gruppe 6 under Oberjäger Heinz Gieser, and Gruppe 11 under Grotke hold the ground. The machine gun of Unteroffizier Werner Wummel from Koch's staff supports all 3 groups. Hauptmann Koch organizes the defense from a position approximately 80 meters west of the bridge, working closely with Oberleutnants Otto Zierach and Kies. South of the road, the sector is held by Gruppe 5 under Oberjäger Walter Röhrig, Gruppe 3 under Oberjäger Willi Garno, and Gruppe 8 under Oberjäger Alfred Stolzewski. Oberleutnant Kies acts as liaison officer to the Luftwaffe. His role proves critical. Ground panels and markers are laid out to indicate enemy positions, surrendered areas, and targets requiring further attack. Around 6:45, the surviving members of the signals detachment under Oberarzt Dr. Jäger change position after observing a decline in Belgian fire. They transmit situation reports to Veldwezelt, Kanne, and Eben Email. 15 minutes later, they rejoin the main body. Feldwebel Hans-Joachim Richter establishes an emergency dressing station in a house 50 meters from the bridge. The reinforced Fallschirmjäger now hold the ground securely. Belgian resistance collapses. The defenders withdraw, leaving behind weapons that are damaged or no longer usable. The bridge at Vroenhoven stands intact. The first part of the mission is complete. The bridge is held, the reinforcements are in place, and the western bank is secured. But east of the canal, the situation is far more precarious than it appears. 25 to 30 Fallschirmjäger were intended to operate on the eastern side of the bridge. They do not show up. Oberjäger Schmitt therefore relies on shouting, aggressive movement, and continuous fire to create the impression of a far larger force. In reality, his group is very small. Schmitt himself possesses only one effective German weapon, the MP taken from Oberjäger Barding, who lies wounded. Armed again and recovered enough to continue, Schmitt sets about holding the captured ground east of the bridge. He instructs Pelz to inform Oberfeldwebel Hoffmann about the presence of Dutch troops at Wilre. Schmitt now faces a dilemma. He has no orders and no clear plan for dealing with the Dutch force. Fallschirmjäger training encourages independent action. Schmitt chooses deception over firepower. Psychological pressure becomes his principal weapon. He explains to Gefreiter Stenzel that they face a Dutch unit of company strength which they cannot defeat in a prolonged fight. Their aim is to force a surrender through intimidation and persuasion. Stenzel is selected as negotiator. Schmitt is confident that Stenzel will construct a credible argument where none exists. Stenzel moves through an orchard and disappears from sight. His loose jump trousers, smock, and camouflage steel helmet blend perfectly with the terrain. He carries a white cloth to signal distress, if needed. Behind him, Schmitt and the remaining men wait. Stenzel's threats are carefully chosen. He speaks of Stuka attacks. He hints at armored and artillery support. Presented with confidence, such claims are intended to unnerve an officer uncertain of his situation. The aim is a rapid surrender without unnecessary risk. 70 minutes after the assault begins, Major Aldinger's flak batteries open fire from the far side of the River Meuse. The sound is reassuring to the Fallschirmjäger. Schmitt is unaware that Hauptmann Koch has so far failed to establish radio contact with Aldinger. At approximately 8:32, large civilian cars approach at speed from the direction of Maastricht. Schmitt orders Haas to wait by the roadside and steps into the center of the road himself. The first driver brakes violently on seeing him. The second car swerves to avoid collision. Both attempt to turn back. Schmitt fires a burst from his MP above their roofs. Both vehicles halt immediately. Two well-dressed men emerge. One identifies himself as a senior government official. The other claims to be a United States diplomat. They intend to cross into Belgium via the Vroenhoven bridge. They are unaware that it is under German control. Schmitt informs them that they have entered a combat zone and may neither proceed nor return. The official insists that the commander-in-chief for South Limburg has assured him the bridge is open. Schmitt calmly demonstrates that this is no longer the case. He then executes a deliberate bluff. He escorts the men into a nearby house and explains that they are surrounded by large German forces. He claims that major elements of an army advancing from the Krefeld-Viersen-Mönchengladbach area have bypassed the Belgian bottleneck at Roermond and are encircling Maastricht from the rear, supported by the Luftwaffe. He warns that continued resistance will lead to the destruction of Maastricht and the surrounding countryside. He suggests this can be avoided if the commander-in-chief recognizes the situation and surrenders. Schmitt speaks of thousands of German paratroopers. The Dutch official is visibly shaken. Enraged and convinced, the official demands immediate contact with the commander-in-chief. When the connection is made, he repeats Schmitt's claims in full. The commander-in-chief dismisses the report and rebukes him. This only deepens the official's anger. He insists that he is standing beside the commander of the German spearhead and that this officer has permitted him to use the telephone. At that moment, the authority of the commander-in-chief is fatally undermined. The result of Stenzel's mission is still unknown. The situation east of the bridge remains uncertain. Through binoculars, Schmitt observes 5 Belgians preparing a heavy machine gun. Others occupy nearby houses. Heinrich Haas climbs a ladder against a wall and confirms that a serious threat is forming. German aircraft detect the activity and tighten their circling pattern overhead. Schmitt and his men lay swastika flags on the ground to mark areas under German control, as previously agreed with the pilots. A civilian car belonging to the American diplomat still displays a United States flag. Schmitt orders its removal. Haas takes a position to the left of the road and provides cover from height. Ruthsatz mirrors this on the right. Schmitt takes a bicycle from captured equipment to achieve surprise. He rides directly, at full speed, towards the Belgian position. The 5 gunners are so astonished that they do not fire. At 20 meters, Schmitt attempts to dismount and jump into a garden. The brakes fail, and the maneuver collapses. He falls and injures 6 fingers and 1 knee. His helmet protects his head. Ignoring the pain, he reaches the house and throws himself into the garden. Only 10 meters separate him from the Belgians. He fires several shots to keep their heads down. His position lies outside their field of fire, behind the corner of the building. He demands their surrender. At first, they refuse. After shots strike near their feet, they flee. Matters then worsen. While returning to his men, Schmitt is wounded in the arm. A bullet tears an artery. Haas and Ruthsatz stop the bleeding. They bandage the wound and improvise a splint using boards from a garden fence. After a brief pause, Schmitt rises and resumes command. Orders arrive from Oberfeldwebel Hoffmann to withdraw 100 meters and defend the sector. They also instruct Schmitt to demolish several houses to deny cover to the enemy. Schmitt refuses. Approximately 100 civilians are sheltering in cellars below. The anticipated Dutch counterattack from Wilry does not occur. Then Stenzel reappears. He comes along a side road, waving his grey-white cloth, signaling not to fire. A group of Dutch soldiers follows him. Air attacks by fighter bombers and Stukas have convinced them that resistance is futile. Shortly after 10 o'clock, the Dutch border unit surrenders. They lay down their weapons at the customs post, unaware that they have capitulated to only 4 men. The telephone in the customs office rings. A Dutch official asks to speak with the same civil authority as before. He is informed that the southern sector of Dutch Limburg will surrender within 1 hour. Schmitt suppresses his satisfaction. The truth must remain hidden. Guarding the prisoners poses a serious problem for the small group. Continuous Luftwaffe presence prevents escape attempts. 6 Henschel 123 aircraft operate over the area at all times. 2 patrol between Cannes and Eben Emael. 2 circle over Vroenhoven. 2 more arrive from Germany in rotation. Dutch and Belgian troops accept their situation without protest. Concern over the growing number of prisoners ends when the Maastricht garrison surrenders around 11 o'clock. Many involved in the negotiations conclude that surrender without bloodshed is preferable to futile resistance. On the western bank of the canal, fighting continues between the Fallschirmjäger and the Belgians of 18th Regiment de Ligne. The Germans attack the trenches from the rear. Belgian responses prove ineffective. After the death of Kapitein van Beneden, 1st Compagnie collapses and the bridgehead expands. 2 limited Belgian counterattacks follow. Lieutenant Pirlo advances with 3rd Compagnie. Capitaine Deleu de Cécile leads 2nd Compagnie from Hayes towards the bridge at around 10:20. Their orders are to seize the school and press on to the bridge. The attack fails. Fallschirmjäger are entrenched in houses near the bridge and on the eastern canal bank. From these positions, they bring down intense fire. The Belgian advance is stopped and broken. The Belgian counterattacks have failed, and the bridgehead holds. But the fighting around Vroenhoven is not yet finished, and the pressure on Hauptmann Koch's position remains real. At 10:20, Koch reports that enemy forces are assembling for a renewed counterattack. Artillery support accompanies the Belgian effort. The attack develops but collapses under sustained Luftwaffe strikes and the fire of Major Aldinger's flak batteries. 15 minutes later, Koch reports that the counterattack has been broken. Aldinger's guns then shell the area from which the attack originates, concentrating on Object 66, the small village of Kesselt, near Hees. The only prolonged resistance comes from personnel of the Belgian Battalion Command Post. At approximately 11:25, they withdraw into a nearby trench system and continue firing artillery shells and mortar bombs at German positions. This fire continues until 18:25, when they are cut off, surrounded, and finally run out of ammunition. In theory, Belgian units are expected to support 1st Compagnie after it is driven away from the bridge. This support never materializes. Several incidents of mutiny and desertion occur beyond the control of Belgian officers. A troop of 7th Company at the northern strongpoint refuses to fight. Another group threatens desertion outright. When the troop commander attempts to move forward towards the trenches near the bridge, his men desert in the direction of Tongeren. Another detachment of the same company holds its position only with difficulty and withdraws at 18:30 when the opportunity arises. Similar collapses occur in the central strongpoints, where troops abandon their trenches almost immediately. Only the southern troop maintains its position for any length of time. The behavior of the Belgian defenders at Vroenhoven contrasts sharply with that at Veldwezelt. Those not killed in the initial assault either avoid combat entirely or vanish from the battlefield. Others intervene too late and commit serious tactical errors. This is evident in the actions of Lieutenant Pirlot's 3rd Compagnie of 18th Regiment de Ligne. Instead of attacking the Fallschirmjäger directly, the company maneuvers cautiously and remains unnoticed by nearby German forces. The unit initially occupies Montenaken, a ridge approximately 20 meters high and roughly 1,100 meters south of the bridge. Stuka attacks prevent effective fire from this position. As German Fallschirmjäger advance towards casemate A, they open fire on Pirlot's men. Pirlot cannot establish contact with 2nd Compagnie, which is already under German attack. Together with Lieutenant Houssiot, who commands 2 machine gun sections, he decides to move in support. On the way, they encounter frontier cyclists from a reconnaissance troop. Pirlot orders them back to the lower ridge positions. At that moment, they observe Belgian soldiers near the Vroenhoven bridge, wearing the distinctive cap of the Ardennes infantry and moving towards Maastricht. Pirlot assumes the bridge has been recaptured. He does not consider that these men may be prisoners from 20th Regiment d'Artillerie being marched into German captivity. At 1900, Lieutenant Houssiot reaches the trench line of 2nd Compagnie. Lieutenant Vergeinst informs him that Capitaine Goeder has been wounded and captured. The men are badly shaken by air attacks. The officers decide to withdraw what remains of the company to the Montenaken Ridge. The withdrawal is completed by 2200. At 9 o'clock on May 11, 1940, Lieutenant Pirlot concludes that retreat is the only remaining option. He organizes 2 columns to break out independently across open ground. The first column is captured shortly after departure. The second is located near Tongeren on the morning of May 12, 1940, and captured after a brief engagement. Lieutenant Vergeinst's detachment of 2nd Compagnie remains in its trenches until it is surrounded and taken prisoner at 12:30 on May 11, 1940. The only action that qualifies as a determined Belgian counterattack is carried out by Sous-Lieutenant Ansker. He commands the northern strongpoint of 6th Compagnie under Capitaine de Leu de Cécile. The company defends the area around the village of Hees, between Vroenhoven and Veldwezelt, dispersed across 6 defensive positions. Ansker holds a trench along the paved road leading towards Veldwezelt. At 7:15 on May 10, 1940, he identifies German paratroopers approximately 600 meters ahead. Capitaine de Leu de Cécile confirms that the road between Hees and Veldwezelt is in German hands and orders a counterattack. Ansker volunteers his troop and pushes the Germans back by roughly 200 meters. After this action, there is a lull until 10 o'clock, when German attacks resume. Belgian resistance then collapses under ammunition shortages, aggressive German infantry action, and continuous Stuka attacks. The air strikes destroy the Belgian 47mm anti-tank guns. At the request of Oberleutnant Kies, the Luftwaffe liaison officer, Stukas concentrate on the Kesselt to Hees sector throughout the morning and into the afternoon. Further air support is requested at 14:10 and again at 16:30. As a result, all but one of the defensive positions of 6E Compagnie fall, or are abandoned without resistance. At one position, the troops desert when their commander leaves to obtain ammunition. By nightfall, on May 10th, 1940, only two positions remain occupied, the company command post and Ansgar's trench. German forces prepare an attack for first light. Capitaine Deleu de Cecile gathers all remaining able-bodied men around the command post and orders Ansgar to hold his trench at all costs. He urgently requests reinforcements. At 6 o'clock on May 11th, 1940, Infantry Regiment 12 attacks the remaining Belgian positions. The defenders initially hold, supported by 2 machine guns at the command post and accurate fire from Ansgar's men. At 8:15, Ansgar realizes he is completely surrounded. He leaves his trench, firing a submachine gun, and is killed immediately. His surviving men are captured. The command post continues to resist until 9:30. With no ammunition remaining, Capitaine Deleu de Cecile orders bayonets fixed. His men surrender, recognizing that further resistance is pointless. At 18:30 on May 10th, 1940, with German forces firmly established at Vroenhoven, Belgian 21-centimeter artillery batteries shell the bridge. All counterattack attempts are halted by the German defensive perimeter. The bombardment causes no casualties. Aldinger's flak batteries return fire once they are in position near the crossing. At 12:50, Gruppe 2 unexpectedly arrives with the 1st Infantry reinforcements. Its glider made an emergency landing at Hotdorf, north of Düren in Germany, preventing earlier participation. With these men in place, the situation stabilizes fully. At 1300, Oberst Zeidemann informs Hauptmann Koch from the headquarters of the 8th Fliegerkorps that he has been awarded the Ritterkreuz. From 1800 onwards, German reinforcements arrive steadily, with particularly heavy arrivals around 1950. At 2140, the Fallschirmjäger begin withdrawing towards Maastricht. At approximately 23:30, they reach a tobacco factory in the city and link up with elements of Gruppe Stahl. At Vroenhoven, the Germans suffer 7 men killed. They capture 2 anti-tank guns, 21 field guns, 24 machine guns, 16 mortars, and 350 prisoners. On May 11th, 1940, the bridgeheads at Veldwezelt and Vroenhoven expand rapidly. Belgian resistance collapses completely. The armored formations of 3rd Panzer Division and 4th Panzer Division advance deep into Belgium with little opposition. The bridge that Oberjäger Schmitt and 4 men held through deception, courage, and improvisation now carries the weight of an entire armored thrust. The military doctrine of the future has overrun that of the past. The battle for Vroenhoven is over. The bridge stands. The bridgehead holds. But the cost of those few hours on May 10th, 1940, extends far beyond the men who fought on either side of the canal. Civilian evacuation at Vroenhoven is marked by confusion and negligence from the outset. At approximately 5 o'clock, with German gliders already visible overhead, Caporal Penneman repeatedly telephones Capitaine Gidelot at Lanaken for instructions. Gidelot tells him to calm the civilians. He insists that the situation is only an exercise. No evacuation order comes. The consequences are fatal. The most tragic case involves the Schiepershurten family. Almost the complete family dies during the attack. The casualty figures for the operation itself vary depending on the source. Dutch archival records list 42 German dead across all 4 objectives, 8 at Veldwezelt, 26 at Vroenhoven, 3 at Cannes, and 5 at Eben-Emael. German records list 37 dead, 7 at Veldwezelt, 5 at Vroenhoven, 19 at Canna, and 6 at Eben Emael. Later corrections raise the German total to 43, 8 at Veldwezelt, 7 at Vroenhoven, 22 at Canna, and 6 at Eben Emael. Belgian losses are substantial and in several cases higher than official registers acknowledge. The 2nd Régiment de Carabiniers loses 115 men killed, though the official figure records only 91. The 18th Régiment de Ligne loses 159 men, officially recorded as 134. The 7th Division d'Infanterie suffers 550 men killed in total. German reports state that 7,200 Belgian soldiers are taken prisoner. Of the 3,641 men of the 2nd Régiment de Carabiniers present on May 10, 1940, only 500 remain under arms by May 14, 1940. In less than a single day, a handful of German Fallschirmjäger, many of them junior non-commissioned officers, acting without orders, without reinforcement, and in several cases without functioning weapons, seize and hold 3 of the 4 Albert Canal bridges assigned to Sturmgruppe Koch. They do so through speed, aggression, and an absolute willingness to act on their own initiative. The bridge at Vroenhoven, defended by a full company of Belgian infantry supported by anti-tank guns, machine guns, and prepared demolition charges, falls intact into German hands within 30 minutes of the first glider touching down. 4 men hold the eastern bridgehead alone for hours. 1 man on a bicycle charges a Belgian machine gun position and survives. Another negotiates the surrender of a Dutch border unit with nothing but words and nerve. The operation at Vroenhoven does not unfold as planned. It never does. But the Fallschirmjäger adapt, improvise, and prevail. By the time armored formations of 3rd Panzer Division and 4th Panzer Division roll across the bridge on May 11, 1940, the tactical revolution that began in the darkness over the Albert Canal is already complete. And that concludes today's episode. That is the story of Vroenhoven, a bridge defended by a full company of Belgian infantry, supported by prepared demolition charges, anti-tank guns, and a casemate line along the canal slope. Taken in the opening hour of Fall Gelb by a handful of Fallschirmjäger who improvised at every turn, acted without orders, and refused to stop moving forward. By nightfall, on May 10, 1940, the bridgehead is secure. The Belgian units assigned to defend the crossing have collapsed. The casemates are neutralized. The Dutch border garrison has surrendered. And the armored formations of 3rd Panzer Division and 4th Panzer Division are already preparing to roll across the intact bridge and drive deep into Belgium. At a cost of 7 German dead, Sturmgruppe Beton has torn open the Albert Canal line at Vroenhoven and handed the Wehrmacht an operational crossing. It could not have won any other way. In putting this episode together, several works proved indispensable. James Mrazek's account of the assault on Fort Eben Emael provided essential operational context, as did Chris McNabb's study of the Belgian campaign in 1940. For the granular detail of the bridge assaults themselves, the research of Oscar Gonzalez, Thomas Steinke, and Ian Tannehill into the Fallschirmjäger operations at Veldwezelt, Vroenhoven, and Canna offered a level of precision that few sources can match. If you want to go deeper into this subject, visit www.worldwar2-sof.com. There, you will find dedicated pages on Fort Eben Emael and all 3 Albert Canal crossings, including photographs, detailed maps, original documents, and the full source base behind this series. In our next episode, we move south along the canal to the third of Koch's objectives, the bridge at Canal, where the men of Sturmgruppe Beton face a very different kind of fight. But for now, thank you for listening to the Special Forces in World War II podcast. I'm your host, Michael Wires, signing off. And that concludes this mission briefing, fellow warriors of knowledge. We've navigated through the trenches of information, delving deep into the battlefields of history. As we wrap up this episode in our campaign for understanding, remember that knowledge is your most potent weapon. Stay vigilant and keep sharpening your intellectual arsenal. We'll rendezvous again for another episode, continuing our relentless pursuit of enlightenment. Until then, keep your mind sharp, your curiosity burning, and your determination unwavering. Simultaneously, you are hereby alerted to our outposts on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, fortifying our information dissemination. Should you possess any pertinent intelligence to bolster our mission, transmit your findings with no hesitation. Your contributions shall be prominently acknowledged within the operational archives. Furthermore, for those prepared to provide substantial reinforcement, navigate to our Patreon forward base and enlist. Your support is integral to sustaining our forward thrust. Carry forth the legacy. Dismissed.